Change of pace for today. Starting a little bit of new content, getting away from the motor building and the boat stuff. So deer season's coming up on us, so I've been shooting the bow, getting that thing ready and tuned, and I need to make a couple more arrows, so I'm going to make a arrow build video. So got to cut some arrows down, and I've got a fixture that I made to cut the arrows to keep them nice and straight, zip right through them, nice clean cut. Let me show you what I got there. What I got here for cutting arrows. So use my Dremel with a cutoff wheel. Have a ruler on here so you can set to whatever length you want. This is adjustable here. Whatever length you want your arrow to be. Spot in here to kind of keep everything there. Some fences so the cut's nice and square, and then just use the clamp to clamp here. So let's get these arrows cut. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the components that I specifically use for my bow hunting, target shooting, archery experience. So I run Victories, RIP XVs, and with my draw length and the amount of poundage that I'm running, I've got to use 250 spine arrows. So pretty stiff. They work great for me. Run a lot of point weight to boost the FOC way up, so I also run an insert and outsert system from Ethics Archery. For the Victory Elite XVs 250 spine, this is the size of the insert outserts that I use. So it's a .203 ID for the insert and a .262 for the outsert total point weight, and it's adjustable anywhere from 55 to 85 grains. I just leave it maxed at 85 grains. Plus I get really good performance using 100 grain points. Typically stick with 100 grain points just because the availability of them, the variety, a lot easier to find, very cost effective. That or 125 grain points over using something more exotic, like going heavier and heavier. Then the points start getting really expensive and they're just really hard to find. Sticking with 100 grain points, I can keep everything off the shelf, and it's very simple. Either run to my local Bass Pro, archery shop, Sportsman's Warehouse, or order via the interwebs. So that's the insert I'm using. So the next step is The saw does a really good job keeping everything square, but to make sure everything's square, I run it through G5 ASD flip. It's basically hand lap the business end, but I also do the knock end, just a couple passes through here. Just like that, just guarantees that everything will be nice and square. So I get true arrow flight. I'm a big fan of using fixed broadheads, mechanicals. I have them, but I don't typically use them. Just a fan of the fixed. I did tag out on an elk this year. One of the highlights, probably the highlight of my entire hunting career, or hunting experience. I don't make a career out of this, but oh, that'd be awesome. But I got a stock on a bull elk. Didn't even see me coming. Wind was in my favor. I had a little bit of cover. Saw him at about just over 300 yards, and was able to stalk in about as close as I could get without him seeing me, and ranged him at 94 yards. Wind was still to my favor, slightly uphill shot, and I drew, stood up, he had his head down, he kind of moseyed to his right, my left, gave me a nice broadside shot, and I let that arrow fly, and my total arrow weight is right around, let's see, I think it was like almost 500 grains or so, with some pretty crazy FOC. FOC's maybe around, I have to check my notes, but it's around 14-15% FOC, and at 94 yards, pulling 72 pounds, I hit him broadside. I run lighted knocks, so I was able to see the point of impact, and the knock disappeared, which was awesome because that tells me full pass through. And it did. It blew right through him. He went to my left, and I could see the arrow knock light in the ground behind him. He went maybe another 30-40 yards and stopped. I ranged him again, at this time at like 66 yards. Knocked another arrow and let that one fly, and that one blew through him too. So another complete pass through. He went to the right and dropped. And so I'm very happy with these arrows. They fly true. I practice out to 100, and at that time I could only get enough adjustment out of my bow to about 120, 130 yards before the fletching on the arrow would start hitting the sight with all the elevation. But love the arrow setup, so I'm sticking with it. So we got these squared up and everything, so now we're gonna wipe everything down, get it clean and ready for glue up. So some rubbing alcohol. So these inserts are adjustable for weight. You got like little points here, little indents to either break it off or cut it off there, so you can fine tune the weight. I like keeping them just fully intact. With the insert and the outsert, I get really good strength out of my arrow builds, and I'm able to maintain the arrow point integrity, and I don't get any breaks or anything. So very strong system this is. This is the glue I used. It's a 5-minute epoxy. You could use whatever you want, hot melt, some type of super glue. I always use the epoxy because it gives me a little bit of time to make sure everything's good. But let's get this mixed up to glue in these inserts. So this is my choice of cutlery when I am hunting deer or elk, either one, doesn't matter. So this one here is the Magnus Serrazer. They come in non-serrated versions as well, but I don't have a preference over the serrated or the non-serrated. I like them both. But these are nasty buggers. Fly like darts too. And then this is actually what I dropped my elk with on the first shot at 94 yards. This is a Whack-'em. These fly extremely well, fairly quiet, and I mean the broadhead held together really well after blowing through one shoulder, a couple ribs. But those are my two broadheads of choice right there. Magnus 100 grain and the Whack-'em 100 grain. So another one of my homemade tools. This is my homemade arrow spinner. Had a couple fidget spinners, popped the bearings out of them, put them into a little piece of scrap aluminum that I had, and this is my arrow spinner. Works pretty good. Just goes in there. You can spin and check the point for deflection. Homemade tool. Lay the wrap on the table, and I use this soft, almost like mouse pad like material, and using the edge of what I can see here, align that up with the shaft so that it's nice and straight. And I typically leave about 1/16 to an 1/8 inch gap here off the end. And once everything's nice and straight, you just kind of roll it on. It's a nice smooth motion. And it's on. Nice and straight. No crazy overlap on the end. Everything's lined up and gives me a little bit of a gap. That's one. Okay, we're going to prime up, not prime, but clean up to promote some adhesion for the vanes. So these are the vanes I'm going to be using. They are Silent Night 3-inch. We're going to wipe down the surface here with some acetone, just a clean it, and then we'll do the same thing to the shafts prior to glue up, and then we'll get to gluing up. Acetone, some Q-tip, Right, so the glue I'm going to be using to glue this up, I like to use stuff that's just off-the-shelf stuff because you never know when you're going to need some glue, is just this Loctite super glue, the gel control. I prefer the gel because it kind of stays where I put it. It doesn't seem to drip, sag, or anything like that, especially using the jig or fixture. So use the Easy Fletch. This one has left helical. Did some testing and saw that without any veins on my arrows, the arrow naturally wants to spin to the left, so I'm just going to put left helical in it to begin with. Little added insurance, like to tip tail them, just a dab, leading edge and trailing edge. That is crazy helical. Bunch more to do.